What's going on, guys, and welcome to Yoda Expedition. We got two 3rd gen Tacomas here, and we just installed our brand new grills from Yoda Expedition. These look great. They utilize 3-piece Raptor lights and also a 20-inch light bar. We're gonna show you how to get this installed, so let's go ahead into the shop and get it done. So right here we have the grill. This is gonna be a complete replacement for the factory one on your Tacoma. It comes pre-installed with the TSS cover, so you don't have to worry about doing that. And then it also has the spots for 3 Raptor lights, the Toyota logo, and then also a 20-inch light bar. So over here we have all the options that's going to be coming with this kit. You have 2 different options for your light bar. You have amber, or you can go with white. And then we have 3 different options here for your letters. So you can go with the standard silver, you can go with black, or you can go with black topography. And then we have the Raptor lights here. So we have 4 different color options. You can go with an amber lens with an amber light. You can go with clear lens with a white light. And then we have 2 different options here. That is a smoked lens. One's gonna have an amber light and one's gonna have a white light. And then to go along and make this install really easy, we have all the wiring that's needed, the wiring for the Raptor lights, the wiring for the light bar, and then at Yoda X, we include this adapter harness. That's gonna be plugging into the light bar harness, and it's going to allow you to utilize one of these OEM style switches so that you have a nice clean install inside your Tacoma. Quick side note, this particular grill does not have a location for a front camera. So if your Tacoma does have a front camera, you can still use this grill, but you're not gonna have a spot to mount it. So just take note of that. Next up, we're gonna be taking a look at the tools needed to do this job. I think I have everything here on the table. If I'm forgetting something, I'll just note it later on in the video. But we have a trim prying tool, we have a Phillips head screwdriver, we have a ratchet with a 10mm socket, and then we also have a pair of wire strippers. All right, so we're gonna go ahead now and get the install started. So we're gonna pop the hood, and to get the grill out on this Tacoma is very simple. So we're gonna have 2 10mm bolts here on the top. We're gonna take those out. And then we also have a clip on either side of the grill. We're gonna unplug the TSS sensor, and then we can go ahead and pop this grill out. So that's literally everything needed to be removed to get this grill off. So now we can just go ahead and pull it off. So we're gonna grab it from each side and we're gonna pull it straight out towards us. This side as well. And that's literally it. So now we can go ahead and remove the factory grill from the surrounding piece, and then we'll swap that over to our new grill. So the first thing we can do is remove the TSS sensor. So there's a plug on the back. We can go ahead and unplug that. And then this is held in with 2 screws here. You can either use the Phillips head or you can use the 10mm, and we'll get this out. There's also a additional Phillips head screw here. Remove that. And this comes right out. Once you remove the TSS sensor, there is 2 nuts under there. You do have to remove those and transfer those over to your new grill. So those simply just slide into the slots here, and then we can slide those into the new one. So now we have one more clip that is holding the TSS wiring into the center section of our grill. And it's kind of tricky to get to and remove the clip unless you remove the factory Toyota logo. So we're gonna go ahead and do that. We just have 1 Phillips head screw, and we have a few clips. So we'll go ahead and remove that screw. And then we have a couple of clips here. We'll go ahead and depress those, we'll push them in and get this out. So once you pop the emblem out and you flip the grill over, you can see there's like a recessed area there, and that's where that clip is, which would be pretty difficult to get out unless you just ripped it out and destroyed it. So now we can go ahead and remove that. We can just snap this back in place, put that screw in, and then we can go ahead and remove the actual grill itself from the outside piece. Now we're gonna take the Phillips head screwdriver again. We're gonna have 7 screws along the top to remove, and then we also have 1 on the bottom right in the center. So we're going to go ahead and remove those. With the 8 screws removed, all we have left is the tabs holding the grill in. So all around the outside, we have a bunch of tabs. We're just gonna go ahead and start pressing those through. And then eventually the grill will come out. So with this apart, we're gonna go ahead now and get the new grill prepped. We're gonna get this out of our way. We're gonna get the Raptor lights installed. We're gonna get the light bar installed, and then we can go ahead and get that fitted onto our outside piece, or outer piece, and then we can get that reinstalled onto the Tacoma. So we'll start the reassembly off with the TSS sensor. So we're gonna take those nuts that we removed from the factory one, and we're just going to reinstall those, slide them into those slots, and then we can reinstall that. It's only gonna fit on one way. We can get the 10mm bolts reinstalled and the screw for that. Next thing we're gonna install is the light bar. So we have the amber one here. We're just going to get this laid onto the grill. It's only going to fit one way, and then we have the screws to get that installed. So we have a total of 5 Phillips head screws. We'll go ahead and get that fastened. So there it is with the light bar installed. Looks really clean. Now we can go ahead and get the letters installed. So we got our letters here. We're going with a set in topo, and we have the screws. So the kit's gonna come with 2 different sets of screws. I usually just install it with the black screws. They're a little bit longer and it'll hold a little bit better. So we'll go ahead and get that popped in place and get that screwed on. There we have it now with the letters installed. So let's go ahead and get the Raptor lights installed. I think we're gonna go with amber to match the light bar. That'll look pretty good. All right, there we go. Got the Raptor lights installed. Now the grill is fully assembled, and we can go ahead and get this snapped back into place of our outer section, and then we can go ahead and get this installed on the Tacoma. So we got the outer piece. Just line up all of our tabs. Make sure all of the wires are also inside so you're not pinching any of that. And then we'll just get everything snapped in place. All right, so those 8 screws that we took out earlier from your factory grill, we're not gonna be reinstalling those. The new grill does not have a spot to put those screws, but there is a lot more clips than your factory one, so it's not going anywhere. And here we have the new grill installed. So now we can go ahead and put it on the Tacoma. So let's take the grill, get it lined up, snap that back in place. Make sure to plug in the TSS sensor, not only to the back of the sensor itself, but up here. And then we can get those 2 10mm bolts reinstalled and the clips on either side of the grill. And then we can work on the wiring and getting all of this stuff working. So with the grill installed on the Tacoma, we're gonna get into the wiring. I'm gonna quickly just go over what we have here on the table. So we have the wiring harness here for the Raptor lights. And when it comes to wiring in the Raptor lights, there are 2 different ways that you can do this. You can either use a fuse tap or you can use a wire tap. Both are gonna be included in the kit. So you can either run the fuse tap to your fuse box and get power from there, or you can run the wire tap to one of the wires on the backside of your headlight and you can get power from there. And then we have the wiring harness here for the light bar. This does come with a generic switch. We're not going to be using that. We have a adapter harness here that's going to adapt this harness to an OEM style switch, which is going to look much cleaner inside the Tacoma. And then we have all the connectors and stuff that we need to do this. We also have a grommet for the firewall, so when we run the wiring through there, we know we're not going to be taking any chances of the wires getting cut and stuff like that. So we're gonna get the Raptor lights hooked up first. This is gonna be an easier job. We're gonna do the wire tap method. It's a little bit easier, and I like this because the Raptor lights are able to be turned off. If you wire it in with the fuse tap, they're gonna be on 24/7 as long as your key is on. This way you can turn them on and off with your headlights when using the wire tap. So opening up the harness for the Raptor lights, we have our 3 plugs to plug into the Raptor lights themselves, and then we just have a power and a ground. So since we're gonna be using the wire tap, the connector here on the power side, we're gonna go ahead and just chop that off. And then we have our ground, which we can connect to the 10mm bolt on the inner fender, which is super convenient. So let's go ahead and get this plugged up and routed. You're gonna have some extra wire. We can just bundle that up nicely and zip tie it. So like I mentioned, this connector for our positive, we're just gonna cut that off. And then the ground, we're going to attach that right here on this 10mm bolt, and we'll get this hooked up. Next thing we're gonna do is get the power wire hooked up. So I'm gonna be wiring this into the marker light on our headlight here. So there is a 2-wire plug tucked back inside. It might be a little difficult to get to. We're gonna get that unplugged, and then we're gonna use a wire tap, tapping into the wire that gives power, and that will turn on our Raptor lights when we turn the running lights on. All right, so I got that plug out. A little difficult. I did remove the headlight bulb because that was taking up some space. But the driver's side is definitely where you're gonna want to do this, not only because that ground is right there on the inner fender, but you have an open access here. The passenger side has your washer fluid tank, so you really can't get to it. So now I'm just gonna do a quick test. I'm gonna see which 2 of these wires gives me power to my running light, and then I will tap into that wire. So I got my test light, I got that hooked up to our ground. I have the marker lights on, they're on the other side. And now I'm just gonna probe this plug, and I'm going to see which one has power. As you can see, that wire there, the purple one is our power. So we're gonna grab power from that and get our wire tap on there. So we'll take our wire tap just like this. We'll get it onto our wire, and we'll take our pliers here, our wire strippers, and we'll click that down in place. We know our connection's good. And now our red wire, the power for our Raptor lights, we'll put in here and crimp that down until it clicks. That's good. We can reinstall the plug, and we'll reinstall our light, our main headlight. So we got the power and the ground hooked up. So we'll go ahead and turn them on, test them out, make sure everything's working. One more click. There we go. So that was a pretty simple install. I'm just gonna go over a little bit. If you are installing the fuse tap, we got the fuse box right here underneath the hood. And what you essentially are looking for is something under there that only has ignition power. There's a lot of things under here that also have constant power. If you tap into that, your Raptor lights are gonna be on even if your key's off. So find something under here that's ignition power, and then your Raptor lights will turn on when your key is on. So with the Raptor lights complete, let's go ahead and do the wiring for our light bar. We have 2 connectors here that we actually need to wire onto the light bar harness itself. So the 2 wires that are coming off of the back of the light bar, those wires are bare. We're gonna put these 2 connectors on, and those are going to connect to our harness. We're gonna do that first, get it out of the way, and then we can start running our harness into the interior. So with that done, let's open up the harness. That generic switch that the harness comes with, we're not gonna be using, so we can just set that to the side. On the harness, we have our power and ground, which we're gonna be running to our battery. We have the relay, and then we have the 2 wires that are gonna be plugging into the light bar. That's gonna match the 2 connectors that we just installed on the light bar itself. And then we have this connector here. That's where our adapter harness is going to be plugging in, and we're gonna be running that through the hole in the firewall and then to our switch. So let's go ahead and get this in place. We'll get everything laid out and start hooking it up. Got some extra wire here for the section that's going to be running up to the firewall. So we're actually going to bunch the relay together with the excess wiring. If you want to mount this somewhere, you can. There's really no good place to mount it. These holes here are open, but the threads are too big for a bolt that size to fit through this hole. So you could drill that out if you wanted to, and you'll have a nice mounting spot right there. But for right now, I'm just gonna zip tie this all together as one bundle, and then we can tuck it up underneath this and we won't see it. So with that tucked in the fender, all we have here sticking out is our fuse, our power, and our ground, which we can just hook right up to our battery. And then we have the wire coming out that's gonna be running up to the front to hook up to the light bar itself. So now we're gonna go ahead and hook up our power and ground. So we're gonna hook the ground up to that same 10mm bolt here on the inner fender. So we'll go ahead and just take that out, put our ground in there, tighten that back down. So I said I might have forgot a tool. You're gonna need a 12mm socket for the top here on your terminal. Take this nut off, run our power over to there, tighten this back down. And we can throw this back on. Last thing to do up front is just take our wiring for the light bar itself. We're gonna route that through here. We'll get that hooked up, and then we are finished up here under the hood. We can go and get the factory switch ran into our interior and get that hooked up. So with that routed, we'll hook this up, red to red, black to black, do some more wiring management. We'll get all this stuff tucked up. We'll get it zip tied to some stuff here behind the grill to just hold it. Then we can go inside and work on the switch. Now we're ready to take the adapter harness. We're gonna get that plugged into our main light bar harness. We're gonna get this fed through the firewall. On the firewall, you can see there is a small rubber plug. We're gonna go ahead and pop that out. You can just take your finger and just pull it right out pretty easily. Right here is that rubber plug, and then we can feed these 3 wires through there. Before we put the wiring through the firewall, put the grommet on these wires. I'm gonna throw a little bit of electrical tape around the end here to just help it go through that hole. I also have 1 wire folded back, so it's not as big of a bundle of wires. So I get this taped up and we'll get this fed through. It's gonna probably be a little difficult. It's gonna take a little bit of patience, and then once you go into the interior of your truck and you go down near your brake pedal, hopefully you can keep fishing this through. You'll see the wires poking through, and then once you can grab them, pull them through, and you'll be good. All right, so we got the wire fed through the firewall, and we have it pulled down here. It's gonna probably take 2 people to do this. There is padding back there, and you need to kind of pull that away from the firewall so that you have room to fish that wire down to where the padding is cut. So I'll go ahead and show you what I'm talking about. So the hole where the wire comes through is somewhere up in this area. So you have this padding, you need to feed it down to right here where this padding is cut. And as you can see, I have it coming through there. So once you have it coming through, you can just pull everything through, and then we can get it hooked up. So now that we have the wire pulled all the way through, we can get the grommet into the hole on the firewall. That way no water or anything can get inside. Pretty tight fit. All right, got the grommet in. Used a tiny little flathead screwdriver to just help it get seated, but that is nice and watertight. And now we can just go ahead and plug that together. So back in the Tacoma now, we can get this panel popped off where the switch is going to be going. So like I mentioned earlier in the video, you have 2 options for switches. So you have 2 different styles here that are available. So it's up to you which one you want to pick, but we're going to take that trim prying tool. We're going to put that right here in this corner, and we can pop this out just like that. Now we have access to the backside and all of our wiring, and we can determine which switch we want to use and take out the dummy switch. Just 2 tabs on there, we'll just squeeze and push, and this will fall right out. Now the wire that we pulled through the firewall, we'll bring that up and through here. We'll install our new switch, and we'll get that wire together, and then we can test out the light bar. So the first wire on our plug is green. That's going to be going to the white wire on our light bar harness. So we're going to put a connector on there, get that hooked up, The second wire is a red wire, and that's going to be going to the red wire on the light bar harness. And the third wire is also a red wire. This is to power the backlighting on the switch itself. So we're going to be using a wire tap, and we're going to be grabbing power from one of our existing switches here that turns on the backlighting, so that when you turn your light stock on and these switches light up, so will our new switch. And then lastly, we have the black wire, which is ground. We're going to put a connector on that and get that hooked up to the black wire on the light bar harness. So we got the 3 connectors on our harness that we need. We're going to take the new switch. We're going to pop that right here into our surround, click it in. We can get the plug plugged into the back of our new switch. And let's go ahead and hook up our green to our white, our red to our red, and black to black. So at this point, all we have left is that other red wire for the backlighting on the switch. But where it stands right now, the light bar works, and also our little indicator here on the switch showing you that the light bar is on. The only thing that we don't have working right now is the LED light bar text lighting up, but once we get this wire hooked up to an existing wire here for our backlighting illumination, that will also work when we turn on our lights. So to get power to our backlighting, we have the plug here unplugged for our traction control button. The second wire in, which is a green wire, that's going to be the wire that powers the illumination on that switch. So we're going to take the wire tap. You might have to undo some of this tape and just get some more of the wire exposed so you have room. So we'll do that, and then we'll get that wire tap onto that green wire, hook up our red wire to that, and then we'll have our backlighting. You don't have to use this particular switch. Any of these switches, if it has the same green wire, like this one right here, you can use that if you want. So we'll put that end on the green wire. We'll put our red wire here on the other end. We'll get this clamped down. Plug this back in. Now, when we turn our light stock on, we should see the backlighting turn on, which it does. And now when we hit the button, the light bar icon will also light up. Wiring is complete. We can tuck that back in, snap that back in place. And this job's pretty much finished. Let's go ahead outside and take a look at our brand new grill with our light bar. All right, guys, there you have it. The brand new grill from Yoda Expedition installed on the 3rd Gen Tacoma. Let us know what you think of it down in the comments. If you guys have any questions about this install, ask us down below. And if you want to grab one of these for your Tacoma, you can head over to yodaexpedition.com, click the link in the description, and grab one today. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.